spot on, the switch. So let me get, first of all, your take on how you think the switch has gone.
Well, my basic take on it was to talk to geriatric neurologists and try to figure out where President Biden was in his neurodegeneration. And I think it's been fairly clear to people in the medical field that he's suffering classic signs of neurodegeneration and Parkinson's. So in some sense, I feel like it wasn't so much a bizarre prediction as the silencing, the self-silencing, if you will, of the entire medical community that was cued into what was going on. And the fact that nobody's even talking about the fact that we have an executive branch that appears to be in full self-driving mode, controlled from where we do not know. I think there are 3 nuclear footballs. One travels with the president, one with the vice president, and one with the designated survivor at times. I have no idea what the plan is for the 6 or 7 minute window that you would have as commander in chief. So I think it's going terribly.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. We're just not asking questions. And what's more, the Democratic Party, my party, is silencing the very questions we should be asking because none of us know what is running the country. And given that we are in a half proxy war with our main thermonuclear rival, it is completely unforgivable that the American people would not be consulted as to what is happening in the executive branch.
Yeah, it's so bizarre that we see endless pictures of Joe Biden on the beach, but he's still president of the United States. And yet you've got Kamala Harris, who now is the nominee. He's stepped aside, but he wasn't fit to be the nominee for an election in November, but apparently he's fit to be president of the United States until January.
To anybody with the slightest touch of Asperger's, there's no way to go along with this. It's just, it doesn't make any logical sense. What I've been assured privately is that there is a team running the White House far better than Joe Biden, and that I'm supposed to be elated because of the high competency of the team that has effectively replaced the president. Now, these are levels of self-deception and self-justification that I just can't participate in. But what's fascinating is that this is what I've called an anti-interesting event. The media is absolutely pathologically uninterested in the idea that we're in a half war with Russia, and we don't know who the commander-in-chief is at a functional level given the tiny window that we might have if nuclear weapons were used.
Right, and the reality is we saw what Biden was like at 9 p.m. Eastern on that debate stage. If the nuclear call comes at midnight, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., it's, as you say, a 6-7 minute window. Does anybody seriously think that Joe Biden at that time of night is going to be in any cognitive condition to make a call of that magnitude? I don't.
Well, this is the interesting part. Every branch of the decision tree, if you decide that it is Biden in charge, that's terrifying. If you decide that it isn't Biden in charge, that's equally terrifying in a totally different way. If you think about the fact that the press isn't all over this rudderless situation, that's maximally terrifying. So I think that the key response is to just go along with whatever this is. Now, keep in mind that since the end of May, when Donald Trump was convicted of felony counts, we've had a disastrous debate, an assassination attempt, something like a palace coup, a rudderless executive branch. Nothing about this election cycle is in any way normal. And within essentially a week or maybe 8 days of each other, there were attempts to remove both Donald Trump and Joe Biden from the electoral process.
Right. Quite extraordinary. I want to play a clip that I know has exercised you enormously. It's of California Governor Gavin Newsom reacting to the switch.
Let's do it.
How are you feeling about the switch? I mean, the Switch. Now we went through a very open process, and a very inclusive process. It was bottom up. I don't know if you know that. Yes, that's what I've been told to say.
Yes.
And you responded to this by saying, I think this is the most directly I've ever been lied to by a politician. It's a lie preceded by a confession. I've never seen that. I mean, it really was. It was like the whole secret game laid bare in literally one long sentence.
Well, it's very similar to when Gavin Newsom cleaned up San Francisco because Xi was expected for dinner.
Yeah.
You know, the entire political charade has come crashing down. Nobody can believe anything that is being said, and so that's your cue that that's not what the game is anymore. It's not a question of getting people to believe. It's these are instructions that you're being sent as to what you are supposed to act as if you believe, right? You're supposed to act as if you believe that there was an inclusive process that took one of the least loved politicians of all time, Kamala Harris, and elevated her to America's sweetheart, within the space of a few hours. I just don't understand how rational people who are supposed to be our doctors, our accountants, our engineers who build bridges that don't collapse, how anybody who can solve a partial differential equation is supposed to go along with this, I have no clue. Because you have to understand that technical people, it's not personal. You know, there's just right and there's wrong. And everything about this is so completely wrong from first principles that I would say that what we're doing is we're telling everyone with an IQ over 85, you're unwelcome as part of the electorate because you're simply not going to be able to hold the illusion.
It's completely true. And there was a willful deceit of the American people for a lengthy period of time around